guys, this is Sydney. So for some reason I felt called to be on camera and talk about something and especially something about death, and I know there's right now it's where I am in Hawaii is the sorry, I have to move my leg. The 7th of August, so just before the 8/8 portal, and there's a lot of like saying from the old sayings and wisdom sayings and stuff like that from all different cultures. You must die, right? You must die. And what does that really mean, right? What does dying really mean while you are living, while you're alive? It's something that I feel called to share and talk about today in the video for some reason. Just a few days ago, like I was sitting here, and then there's this mountain in front of me and water. And every time I look at the mountain, I'm connecting to the energy of Lemuria. So wherever I am that I'm looking and connecting to, it's like I'm traveling to the energy of that timeline of Lemuria back in the ancient days, long time ago, right? And yeah, a few days ago I was just sitting here and then just like not doing, and it's like I didn't want to be in the state of thoughts or trying to set an intention or have a mind to do something, or even like these ideas of wisdom or positive self-talk or whatever that is. And physically I wasn't doing anything. I just wanted to be in the state of like nothing. And that's what I've been feeling called to be quite a few times, or more than a few times while I was in Hawaii thus far. And in that moment, I was feeling, it's like I don't need to define how I feel with words, and that was so freeing. Like even that little bit of heaviness or the pressure, trying to define something, trying to verbalize it, trying to like come up with the language to describe how I'm doing, is an effort in and of itself. And so in that moment I felt so free, not even putting or setting or doing nothing to do any of that. And in that moment I was nothing. And that was I would say, the most light, the lightest feeling that I had. I don't know how to describe it. It's not even like freeing or feeling liberated. It's just like the lightest. That I'm not thinking, I'm not intending, I'm not forcing, I'm not trying to align, I'm not trying to do this, I'm not trying to do that, even if something so-called positive in human language sense, right? In duality sense. I am breathing, but I'm not, it's not even a state of being aware, or it's not even a state of observance. I don't know how to describe. That's the only way that I can describe. Just sitting here, I'm looking at something, but there's no words in my mind. There's no any kind of language in my mind. There's no thoughts in my mind. There's no this in my mind. And I'm just looking, and there's no effort to be something or to be somewhere, like as if, as a goal, a destination. So for example, trying to align would be a goal. You have a destination in mind, right? Or trying to be present would be a goal, a destination in mind. And without any of these things at all, without trying to be somewhere or get somewhere or be something, or like jump timeline, or trying to get rid of something, or trying to let go, or like putting an effort into that. Just being is the word that comes to my mind, that can be best described. Or existing would be the best that I can describe. That on a mental level, that was what was going on. On an emotional level, it's not hyper excitement. It's not hyper like intense passion. It's not like intense emotions of like something. The emotional content was there, but I didn't have to define it to be something. You see what I mean? I didn't have to always define it. I didn't always have to put a meaning to it. You see what I mean? I was just feeling. I don't know what, I don't know how, I don't know why, but I was feeling. That's all I can describe. I was feeling, I was looking, and I felt the lightest. You see what I mean? Or do you get what I mean? There's nothing other than just being or existing. And so the things that we describe as like peace, right? I felt peaceful, I felt joyful, I felt harmonious, I felt sweet, I felt love, I felt passion, I felt excitement, I felt abundant, I felt grateful. I didn't have these words in mind at all. My emotions were not to be defined at all. I didn't even have to call it freedom. All I can say is the lightest. And in that brief moment, or those moments, I didn't have any human language in my mind. I didn't have to describe it. The pressure is off. And I didn't have to tell myself that even, that's this, I'm feeling this, I'm doing that, this is nice, this is suffering, none of this. And I just look at the wind, the palm trees, the leaves are moving, the mountain is there, I'm connecting. I see the cars moving. I see the wind is blowing this way, so I just look at the waves, the formations. I see the shadow of a tree. Just like now. And I think it's closest to the feelings of enough in human language sense right now, like for communication purposes, right? This moment is enough, for example, or right now is enough. And in that moment, I wouldn't even describe as I am enough, because there was no I in that moment. And as I'm sharing this, I'm getting very emotional for some reason. That was it. There was no I anymore. There was no I. And it was the lightest. And it was the same yesterday, or even every time I was out in the ocean. I would just swim around, connect to the water, and then I would just lie down and then just let all the energy out, like just like surrender. And the ocean water would embrace me immediately the moment I surrender. See? And as I'm sharing this, it's even making me like more emotional as well. That we as a humanity have been struggling, right? Have been putting a lot of effort to learn to surrender, learn to let go, to be free. But what I have learned and realized, take however resonates for you, right? When I got rid of where I needed to be, a destination in mind, I was light. When I wasn't thinking about just being existing, I was the lightest. And when I just released all the pressures of having to define, having to effort, having to create, having to produce, having to be, having to grow, however it is, whether it's positive or negative, right? It's usually the positive things that we are trying to get to. The moment I just floated, the moment I stopped efforting to survive or to float, the ocean water was embracing me. It had me float. So it wasn't me that was floating. See? Do you get, I don't know if you get this. It wasn't me floating anymore in that moment. Something else was taking over just embracing. And I wasn't scared of the waves anymore, whether it was small, whether it was big, whether it was soft, gentle, whether it was rough and wild. The moment I allow the ocean water to float me, there was no I. I was looking at the sky and was amazed at the beauty, generally. And then looking at the clouds moving, I was in awe. Like literally, I was in awe. Like jaw-dropping awe, like in human language sense. I could see the cloud, it would be the same cloud every day. But the emotional content was different in that moment. That's how I can best describe. And there was no I looking at the cloud. There was no I trying to describe this moment. There was no I. And with that, I wasn't thinking about anything else. So I wasn't thinking about the waves. I wasn't worried, right? That if the big waves come, I would have all the water on my face, or I would sink, or I would eaten by it. I would have to drink ocean water, the water goes into my nose. Nothing, and I would just float. And I didn't even realize there were waves coming. I was just moving, I could sense the movement. But I wasn't worried, I wasn't thinking. There was no I in that moment. And in that moment, everything else surrounding me disappeared. I couldn't hear anything. I was looking, and I was being. And I let the ocean water carry me. And then if it's moving this way, I'm moving with it. And if it's moving this way, I'm moving with it. And it was carrying me like a little lullaby, The babies fall asleep better when you are gently shaking or petting them, right? To make them go to sleep, fall asleep, or that's our innate essence, this movement. They resonate, right? Oh, the baby, the music, the waves, the flow is the music itself. And it was the lightest. It was the most, in human language sense, this joy, this excitement, such passion, not in a sense that a lot of people were conditioned to define what passion is. That intensity of joy and excitement is the passion, I would say. And the feelings of how I would best describe all of this together was love. I was feeling love the whole time. And I could feel love the best when I was removed, when I was not there, when I was not trying to do this, I was not trying to. And without this trying, without this effort, without this effort to even love the sky or love this moment, all this efforting, I was receiving it all. You see what I mean? I was receiving love from everywhere. And as I'm talking about it, it's making me emotional as well right now, because I'm feeling and that's a state of receptivity. When we let go of all of that, I this, I that, and that idea of being one with nature, being one with water, however it is, even without having any of these definitions in mind, when we let, it's not even letting go, because that's efforting itself. There's that little pressure. But just relax. Meaning, relaxing can only be done through trust, right? That's why we tiptoe around people who we don't trust. Our body, intelligence of our body already senses, right? You get tensed up. You can't say what you really want to say, right? You hold back. When I trusted the water would not harm me, I was flowing with it. And I was receiving love. You see what I mean? And in that moment, time disappeared, because naturally I was totally and completely committed, fully dedicated. All my attention was in the being now. This is just to describe in human language sense. But at the time of being in that state, I didn't have these in mind. I didn't have these goals. I didn't have these intentions. I just went into the water and relaxed. So with that, humanity at this time is going through a lot of efforting right now in order to understand the meaning of surrender. And flowing. And the irony, human language sense, is that the more you try to flow, the less you will flow. Because there's so much efforting. There's so much force, meaning control, to get to the destination, get to your goal. But that idea of relaxation, even now, just relaxing, there's no counting of time. There's no trying to keep up the records, how long you stayed in the water, how long it lasted of that feeling free or feeling this, feeling that. There's nothing. And how do we know, how did I know that when it was for me to get out of the water, it wasn't because it was time to go home, or it wasn't because the sun was getting too strong on my face, or it wasn't because I spent enough time in the water. There was none of this counting. I just did. And that's all I can describe. I just knew, and I just got out. And when I was time to get out, I let the waves move me to the shore. When the tides were moving this way, I moved with it, and then they pushed me further. And I was doing, and when they moved me backward, and I let it, and that they moved me to the shore. I didn't have to use effort. I didn't have to use force. It just moved me to the shore, and I walked out of the water, literally. And to come to this moment of that realization, it took my entire lifetime, this lifetime thus far, and so many other lifetimes on earth. And it felt nice. That's all I can describe, how I can describe. It just felt light. It's not like, I'm not trying to describe or use something, some positive words to describe it, but it was nice. It was light. And once again, there was no I. So I think that's being one with water, being one with nature, being one with the mountains, being one with the birds, being one with everything. When you finally realize, or trying to describe this moment, trying to feel this moment, trying to recognize, trying to detach, trying to observe, when you stop trying everything, when you stop efforting everything, there's that little tension and pressure. When we relax, that everything comes to you. That you are never alone. You had never been alone. But it felt alone because there was so much I tried to handle everything on my own. I tried to control everything on my own. In survival, right? And when there was no I was receiving everything. I was receiving the help. I was receiving the support. I was receiving the love. And it's making me emotional once again. I was receiving all that I desired for so long in my lifetime, in this lifetime, right? That love, that joy, that lightness in my heart. That's all I can describe. Love and light. That's what it really meant. You were just saying it automatically, or out of a habit, or out of a trend, out of identity that you're a spiritual being or you're a spiritual worker, however it is. We use it all the time, love and light, without really realizing the energy it carries, right? And it was simply that. It was simply love and light. That's how I can best describe. I was receiving light, love, and my heart was light-hearted. I was feeling the lightest. That idea about freedom, the consensus, the assumption or the basis of that is that there is imprisonment, right? When you look at the word from the duality consciousness. And in that moment, it wasn't even that. It wasn't like I'm feeling free. It was just is. And that's a state of I am. I am. There's nothing. There's no need to be anything else other than I am, I am. And that's the meaning of that. It's something that I recognized and realized from my own unique experiences. And even now I'm looking at the clouds. And when I just look at the clouds without paying my full attention, it looks stagnant, meaning it looks like it's not moving. But when I give full attention to it, really connect to it, really look at it, it's moving. And that movement, in human language sense, we describe it as very slow. But that idea doesn't exist in my mind when I connect to it fully. It just moves. And it's so beautiful. So in human language sense, I would describe it as dancing, singing, celebrating in delight. And in that moment, in this moment right now, I'm feeling so much love just by giving my full attention to the clouds and the sky. And in that moment, no language, no words in my mind. I am nothing. My mind is nothing. My mind is empty. And with that, my heart is light. And with that, I'm receiving so much love because I'm relaxed. There's no efforting. There's no energy trying to define it, trying to describe it, trying to make notice of something. My mind is empty, meaning relaxed. And in that relaxation, I connect to the love that is in everything. The sky, the air, the clouds, the mountains. And there is this building in front of me. I look at that building and I look at that mountain. There's such difference in energy vibration. So that's why the ancient sage were all saying to connect with nature, be one with nature, because you receive everything that you desire in that moment. And Lao Tzu was saying, our natural state is relaxation. That's the quote I've been studying all my life, basically, ever since I was very young. All the quotes, the ancient wisdom quotes, especially Lao Tzu. I studied Lao Tzu very intensely, trying to understand the depth behind these simple words. And every stage of my life, it came to me different. I was unveiling the deeper layer of the meaning every stage, even though it's the same words. So it's the same. Someone can try to figure you out. Someone can try to study you how much they want to. But they will never figure you out. They will never know who you are unless you fully pay attention to them. That's how you get to know someone. And there are all these little different movements every moment to moment. A new discovery, new love. If you fully pay attention to it. And that brings so much joy, excitement, and passion. And as you receive, you start to appreciate naturally, right? You appreciate the sky so much. You're not trying to appreciate it. You're not trying to be grateful for it. You're not trying to thank the nature. There's no efforting. When we connect to our essence, that is a relaxation. Everything comes, right? There's no forcing, controlling, trying to figure that out, figure someone out. You're not even imagining in that moment. That's another tool. But that state of being in full attention to this moment, it doesn't require anything else. We use the word alignment to describe that state, but it's not even that, because there's no effort to try to align with this moment. There's nothing. And within that nothingness, I am everything. I am all that I desired. That relaxation, that bonding with the clouds. And with that full attention, you start to recognize the beauty of the clouds or in someone. When you stop trying to figure someone out, when you stop trying to study someone, you start to really recognize, appreciate the beauty. And with that, everything around you now is filled with love and light, because that's how you feel inside, you see? And that's living in this moment, being in this moment, giving full attention to this moment, being fully committed and dedicated to this moment. What's in front of you right now? What's next to you right now? That's what we mean by filling your own cup. That's how you fill your own cup. And that's how you connect to everything and everyone with the energy of love and light. You see the overflow here? And that's because you tapped into the essence of who you really are. That is the relaxation that we are all trying so hard at this time. That we've been conditioned to pursue happiness, pursue alignment, pursue presence, pursue this, pursue that. When you are no longer pursuing these things, you receive everything. All that hustle culture, all that the early birds catching more worms, all these sayings, conditionings from the survival era, right? It wasn't who we are. It wasn't who we were. That's why we struggle so much. We lived with pain so much, right? Because there was so much I. I was trying to be happy. I was trying to be successful. I was trying to be loving. When you stop trying to be, you just are. See the I am, I am. And it's when you tap in. See, when we doubt, the doubt or that suspicion, is it possible? Am I worthy? Am I enough? That can't be. That suspicion, the seed of suspicion, is rooted not from relaxation. You see what I mean? It was all coming from so much tension and pressure, right? Efforting, forcing. And there is no more suspicion of that anymore. When you're connecting to the clouds, fully giving your attention, you're not even thinking of in terms of certainty and uncertainty. You see what I mean? The instant you describe something is certain, you think about uncertain. Vice versa, the moment you think you're uncertain, you immediately start to pursue certainty. There's so much efforting. But right now is a time to remove the I of these efforting anymore. And then everything flows, and magically or miraculously, however you resonate with these words in human language sense, right? And we put so much conditional ideas on these two words, magic and miracle, that it made us wait for the magic, wait for the miracle. What are you waiting for? What makes you wait for them? Right? that idea of miracle from these religious stories, historical narratives, right? Conditioning to believe, basically creating the idea it is what is supposed to be, this supposed to be, right? The limitation in the mind. But once you get rid of all that, now is the miracle. Now is the magic. You see what I mean? So we're returning to the age of innocence. And even the word innocence has been conditioned, right? Even with sexual connotations very heavily at this time. Priming the mind with so much lower vibrations that we are returning to remember how wise it is, how deep it is, the energy of purity, the energy of innocence, that we've been conditioned to look at it, believe it as awakeness, as something that can be underestimated. Now we are returning to really remember, restoring what it really is, not what is supposed to be anymore. You see what I mean? So that's why we are purifying so much, moving from the eye of the ego, moving to being, flowing, existing, however it is that resonates for you, right? To the soul, the humanity is waking up to restore our soul. And with the Lionsgate portal tomorrow and all these major planets going into retrograde during this period, is for us to restore that, return to our essence, remember it, and then eventually embody it. And just yesterday, I had very little sleep, and I woke up around just before 6, and I was about to go back to sleep because I knew that I didn't sleep much. But then for some reason, my energy wasn't feeling depleted. I didn't feel like I needed to go back to bed. I tried, and I was like, okay, I want to go out and run. So I did. And the moment I stepped outside, there was the sun so brightly shining, the morning sun. And I took out my camera naturally and took a photo. And because it was so in my face, so shining bright, I didn't look at the photo that I took until the evening that day. And I saw there was a rainbow portal. And that morning run, I was connecting with the sun very intensely. So right now, there is a huge portal that's opened, as a lot of people traditionally be aware that this Lionsgate portal is a giant portal, and a lot of people talk about the manifestation at this time, right? Manifesting this, manifesting that, but we are not here to manifest at this time, is what I'm going to share too. I just share this funny dancing video with the message, slow down. And slowing down doesn't mean you need to drop everything and stop everything. In a symbolic sense, it meant relax, meaning when you are being existing, there is nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to be afraid of, because the mind is not occupied with conditions in that moment, meaning the thoughts, the words, the definitions. And so your heart stays pure and light. And we are preparing, we're getting prepared to bring this energy to build new earth. Because everything is energy, and the new earth, we cannot have this heaviness, right? And a lot of people struggle to forgive, right? Forgive themselves especially. It all starts from that. You look at that, you look at this, and then it all comes down at the end. I was not forgiving myself. I was holding on to all this heaviness in my heart because deep down, I was trying to fix everything on my own. And with that, I was also trying to fix everything around as well. The control created that attachment. So when we stop trying to fix ourselves, or to fix others, or to fix the situations, everything falls into place. Take however resonates. This beautiful energy right now, that even the idea of lion has been very much conditioned, right? About the king of the world, king of the animal kingdom, right? In the sense of hierarchy. In duality consciousness, it represents both the ego and both the power and strength, the inner strength, inner power. Also, the shadow aspect is the ego. And all the planets retrograding is helping us to really look at, go back to our essence, to purify our desires, what you really desire, what you truly desire that is not connected to the ego. So when you build or when you plant that new seed, it is pure. You're not carrying any other energy to the new earth. And when you do that, your energy matches to that of the new earth, that is the pure energy of love and light. And there have been a lot of religious doctrines, narrative, stories that preoccupied man's mind or humanity's mind for so long. That is the ego. The idea of higher power is the ego. And that was why the angels were with me. Mother Mary Yeshua, a few days ago in my YouTube video and also my Patreon meditation, coming through to my heart portal to dissolve these religious codes, the false light. I've had so many friends and colleagues who are spiritual, suddenly turning into religious, becoming the salesperson, recruiting people to believe their God. I've witnessed so many, the process over the years, the conditioning, the effect of that. Because of this heaviness that we live through, we were so much in pursuit of freedom. You see what I mean? But when you go back to the essence, you don't even need to try to be free. Meaning, the assumption and the basis of that is that you are not free. You are imprisoned. When you have that belief, you're always going to be imprisoned, always in pursuit of something that you can never reach, you can never attain. That is the freedom. You see what I mean? That's why we want to go into I am, I am. You're not trying to be free. You are free already. And it's not even that. You are, you are. Do you see the depth in that? When there's no pursuit, there's no lack. Because the assumption is that, the belief is that, it's not even a belief anymore at that point. It's just the law of the universe, and you are the universe. Meaning, nothing can govern you. The government. You see what I mean? Everything is with you now, meaning already, or it is already. Do you see the connection? And with that, there is no assumption of lack. In religious sense, the freedom meant a higher force takes over and saves you. The underlying assumption of that is you are always going to be the victim. You see? You're always going to be the slave. You see? That's why they used religion so much, so heavily in the Dark Age, and still is right now.